She was crowned in blood, the human princess of war. Terra, her home, had always been a place of pride for humanity, the first world they had truly claimed in the galaxy. But now it was a place on the brink of ruin. The corridors of the royal palace echoed with silence. Only yesterday, her father and elder siblings had been taken from her. An assassination swift, brutal, and calculated had left the royal line in disarray. She, barely 18, was suddenly not just a princess, but the ruler of a people whose lives depended on her decisions. The weight of the crown pressed heavily on her shoulders, and though the palace was filled with advisors and generals, none could replace the instinct, courage, and resolve that would be demanded of her in the coming days. Alara's mind was racing. Intelligence reports streamed in constantly, each one more alarming than the last. The Xyler Collective, a ruthless alien empire, had already claimed dozens of human colonies. They were fast, efficient, and coldly logical. Every time a message arrived from the front lines, the numbers of lost ships and worlds climbed higher. It was a scale of destruction that no human force had ever faced. Yet, even in this dire hour, Alara refused to feel fear. She would not let terror paralyze her. "You should not be here," a voice said behind her. Alara turned to see General Thorin, a grizzled veteran who had commanded Terra's forces for decades. His silver hair was streaked with black, and the lines on his face spoke of battles fought and lives lost. He was one of the few who had survived the purge of the royal family's inner circle. "I needed to see it for myself," Alara replied. Her voice was calm but carried a firmness she didn't feel. "We can't rely on reports alone. I need to understand the battlefield." Thorin shook his head. "You're a princess, not a soldier. You should be inside the palace, planning alliances, managing the colonies. The Xylers will not wait for you to grow into your role." Alara's gaze returned to the stars. "And if I wait, General, humanity may not have a future to plan for." A silence fell between them. Thorin studied her as if weighing her courage against her inexperience. Finally, he sighed. "Very well, but you must understand the risks. The fleets we have left are barely enough to defend even one of the outer colonies, let alone launch an offensive. You are asking to gamble with the lives of thousands." "I understand," Alara said. "And yet, sometimes a gamble is all we have." She turned away from the balcony and walked toward the war chamber, a vast room filled with holographic maps, blinking lights, and the hum of servers. There, the remnants of the Terran fleet were displayed, old ships, many of them believed obsolete, stored in orbital docks and forgotten over decades. Alara's eyes lingered on them. She had read of these ships in history lessons, of their glory in wars long past. But now they were humanity's only hope. "Activate the stealth protocols on Fleet Alpha," she commanded. The room responded instantly, holographic symbols glowing as systems came online. "I want every captain briefed on unconventional tactics. We're not fighting like the Xylers. We're fighting like humans." Thorin raised an eyebrow. "Humans? Do you mean desperate humans?" "No," Alara replied, her tone steady. "I mean humans who think differently, who adapt, who survive. The Xylers underestimate us because they see us as predictable. They are wrong." For the next few hours, Alara immersed herself in the histories of the old fleet. She pored over records of battles, learning strategies used by humans who had faced impossible odds and survived. Each story filled her with a sense of pride. Humanity had never been the strongest species, but they had always been clever, resilient, and relentless. Perhaps these qualities, long overlooked by other civilizations, could be the key to survival. By the time night fell on Terra, Alara had made her decision. She would lead the first strike herself. It was dangerous, perhaps reckless, but it was a chance. If the Xylers were delayed even for a few weeks, humanity could unite its scattered colonies, strengthen defenses, and perhaps find allies among the neutral worlds of the galaxy. The next morning, the palace docks were alive with activity. Ships, long dormant, were awakened by engineers and technicians. The hum of engines, the glow of energy cores, and the precision of crews preparing for battle created an atmosphere of controlled chaos. Alara walked among the captains and soldiers, not as a princess cloistered in luxury, but as a commander ready to lead. Captain Rin, a young officer with bright eyes and quick reflexes, approached her. "Princess, the fleet is ready, but the Xylar scanners are advanced. They may detect even a minor movement. Are you certain about this?" Alara nodded. "We won't move like a traditional fleet. We'll move in shadows, strike when they least expect it, and retreat before they can respond. Humanity survives not by strength alone, but by outthinking the enemy." Rin studied her for a moment and then smiled. "Then I follow you, princess." As the fleet departed Terra's orbit, the vastness of space seemed less cold and more alive. Alara stood on the bridge of the flagship, feeling the vibrations of engines, the pulse of energy coursing through the hull. She thought of her family, gone in an instant, and of the billions of humans depending on her decisions. The weight of responsibility pressed down, but it was accompanied by a fierce determination. She would not fail. The journey to the asteroid belt, where the first engagement would take place, was tense. Scouts reported Xylar patrols in nearby sectors. Alara studied every movement, every signal, every subtle anomaly. Her strategy relied on misdirection, on making the Xylars believe they were pursuing shadows while humanity's real forces slipped through unnoticed. At the edge of the belt, Alara's fleet paused. The asteroids offered cover, creating natural obstacles that could hide their ships from enemy sensors. She held a council with her captains, outlining the plan. Small strike teams would target supply ships and communications satellites, drawing the Xylar fleet away from the main force. The stealth ships would then emerge from the shadows to strike critical command vessels. "Remember," she told them, "we are human. Our strength is not in overwhelming firepower but in adaptability. Every move, every decision, every sacrifice counts. We survive because we are clever, because we endure, and because we refuse to surrender." As the fleet moved into position, tension hung in the air like a living thing. Alara could feel it, sense it in the hum of the ships and the quiet determination of the crews. Then the first sensors picked up enemy movement, a scouting ship, sleek and angular, cutting through the void like a predator. Alara's heart quickened. This was it. The first test of her command, the first gamble to secure humanity's survival. She gave the order and the strike teams moved. Decoys were deployed, sensor signatures manipulated, and communications scrambled. The Xylar ship responded predictably, chasing after what it thought was the main fleet. Alara allowed herself a brief, private smile. Humanity had always found a way when cornered, and now it was proving it once again. Yet, as the battle unfolded, she realized the complexity of command. Even the best-laid plans could falter under unexpected conditions. Signals came in rapidly. One team was delayed, another caught in debris. Decisions had to be made in moments, and each choice carried consequences. Through it all, Alara remained steady. Her mind moved like a chessboard, anticipating enemy responses, adjusting strategies, and encouraging her captains. Her presence inspired courage, and even the most fearful soldiers found themselves acting with precision and confidence. By the end of the engagement, humanity had achieved more than anyone had hoped. The Xylar ship was damaged and retreating, unaware that the main fleet had remained hidden all along. Alara allowed herself a moment of relief, but she knew the war was only beginning. Every victory would come at a cost, and every decision would test her resolve. As the fleet regrouped in the shadow of a large asteroid, Alara looked at the stars once more. They were distant and cold, yet they represented possibility, hope, and the unyielding spirit of humanity. She was young, inexperienced, and suddenly burdened with responsibilities she had never imagined. Yet she felt a spark within her, a fire that would not be extinguished. Humanity had survived countless challenges before, and under her guidance, it would survive again. The first strike had been a success, but it was only the beginning. Ahead lay battles, alliances to forge, and sacrifices to endure. Alara knew that the road would be long and dangerous, yet she felt a fierce determination. She would lead her people not with fear, but with courage, intelligence, and the unbreakable human spirit. For the first time since the tragedy of her family's death, Alara felt a glimmer of hope. Humanity had survived the shadows before, and it would survive again. And she, Princess Alara of Terra, would ensure it. The asteroid belt was a maze of jagged rocks and drifting ice, a natural shield that gave humanity a fighting chance. Alara watched from the command bridge as Fleet Alpha moved cautiously through the shadows, each ship a small piece of a larger plan. The success of their first strike had given the crew hope, but Alara knew that hope alone would not win the war. The Xylers were patient, calculated, and relentless. They would not forget a defeat so easily. Captain Rin approached, his face pale but determined. "Princess, sensors detect multiple Xyler patrols entering the belt. They are searching for us." Alara nodded, her eyes narrowing. "Then we will give them what they expect and lead them exactly where we want." The strategy was simple in theory but dangerous in practice. Humanity would create a series of false signatures, mimicking a fleeing fleet. Strike teams would attack supply vessels in different locations, drawing the enemy's attention away from the main force. Meanwhile, the stealth ships would circle around to hit the Xyler command units, disrupting communications and coordination. The first strike team moved ahead, cloaked and silent, targeting a convoy of supply ships. Alara monitored the operation closely, issuing precise instructions to each unit. The tension was palpable. One wrong move and the mission could fail. One miscalculation, and lives could be lost. From her position on the flagship, Alara watched as the human ingenuity she had admired in history came alive. Using small, maneuverable drones, the strike team disabled Xyler engines without destroying the ships entirely. They created chaos among the enemy ranks while minimizing direct confrontation. It was a delicate balance, but the humans executed it flawlessly. "Impressive," Thorin said, his voice low but filled with pride. "You are beginning to understand the nature of command, Princess. It is not only about courage, it is about patience, observation, and timing." Alara allowed herself a brief smile. "Then we will need all three in the battles ahead." The Xyler patrols, misled by the false fleet signals, pursued decoy units into open space. Humanity's main force remained hidden among the asteroids, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Alara's mind raced with calculations and contingencies. Every ship, every captain, every crew member had to act in unison. The success of this mission would demonstrate that humans were not simply prey to the Xylers. They were opponents capable of thought, strategy, and adaptation. Hours passed as both fleets maneuvered carefully. Alara paced the bridge, her gaze fixed on the holographic displays. She could feel the tension in the room, the silent anticipation of the crew. Even the youngest officers moved with precision, following protocols she had established personally. Then came the first unexpected challenge. A smaller Xyler scouting ship had detected anomalies in one of the decoy convoys. Its scanners focused on the fleet, and the enemy vessel altered course directly toward the hidden human ships. "Princess, they are approaching," Rin shouted. "If they find us, the mission is compromised." Alara took a deep breath. "Then we must turn their own strategy against them. Prepare the ambush drones. Use the asteroid shadows to your advantage. Let them come." The crew worked with urgency, maneuvering small, automated units into strategic positions. As the Xyler ship entered the belt, it was caught in a web of traps, drones that disabled its engines, electromagnetic pulses that scrambled sensors, and hidden turrets that forced it to retreat. The humans had once again turned weakness into strength, exploiting the environment to compensate for numerical inferiority. "Excellent work," Alara said quietly, watching the enemy withdraw. "We have proven that humans are unpredictable." But there was no time to celebrate. Sensors began to pick up signals of a larger Xylar fleet approaching the belt. This was no patrol. This was a strike force, prepared to hunt and destroy any humans in the area. The reality of the war pressed heavily upon Alara. One fleet could not defeat another of this size in a direct fight. She would need to be smarter, faster, and more cunning than ever before. "Princess, we cannot hold them here for long," Thorin warned. "We are risking the fleet if we engage directly." Alara's mind raced. Retreating was an option, but it would allow the Xylars to regroup and track the human colonies more easily. She needed a plan that would buy time and prove humanity's strength. Then an idea struck her, an unconventional maneuver that relied on speed, stealth, and human adaptability. "We will split the fleet," she decided. "Half will act as bait, drawing the Xylar strike force into the asteroid maze. The rest will use stealth to flank them from behind. We will disrupt their command structure, not destroy them outright. Confusion is our ally." Rin looked at her, admiration and worry in his eyes. "It's risky, Princess, but if it works, then it will show them that humans are not to be underestimated," Alara finished. The plan was executed with precision. The bait fleet moved openly, engines glowing, luring the Xylars deeper into the asteroid field. The enemy, confident in their superior firepower, followed without suspicion. Meanwhile, the stealth units slipped around the periphery, hidden in shadows and behind large asteroids. Alara felt a surge of adrenaline as she coordinated the movements. This was the test of her command skills, the moment where theory became action. The humans had studied the Xylars, understood their patterns, and adapted to their logic. They were turning the tide not through brute force but through cleverness. As the Xylars entered the ambush zone, the humans struck. Precision drones disabled key weapon systems, communication lines were disrupted, and unexpected countermeasures forced the enemy into confusion. The battle was swift, surgical, and effective. The Xylars, though superior in technology and numbers, found themselves disoriented and hesitant. Alara's heart pounded as she watched the enemy struggle to respond. Each decision she made, each command she issued, had a direct impact on the outcome. For the first time, she felt the weight of leadership fully, not as a shadow of her family's legacy, but as her own authority forged in action. By the time the engagement ended, the Xylar fleet had retreated, leaving behind several disabled vessels and a shaken strike force. Humanity had won a significant tactical victory. The crew erupted in quiet cheers, a mixture of relief and pride. They had faced an enemy many times their strength and survived, thanks to strategy, ingenuity, and unwavering courage. Thorin approached Alara once the bridge had quieted. "You have done well," he said. "This was more than a victory in battle. It was a victory of spirit. You have shown your people that even against impossible odds, humans can prevail." Alara's gaze returned to the stars, the endless darkness stretching before them. "This is only the beginning," she replied. "The Xylars will not stop. Every victory will make them more determined. We must grow stronger, smarter, and more united. Humanity cannot survive in pieces." Over the following days, the fleet repaired damage and regrouped. Alara oversaw every detail, learning the balance between delegation and hands-on leadership. She held councils with her captains, listened to their ideas, and encouraged innovation. Ideas flowed from young officers and seasoned veterans alike, ingenious uses of old technology, clever defensive measures, and strategies designed to protect civilians on vulnerable colonies. Her presence inspired loyalty. The crew saw her not as a distant princess, but as a leader who understood the risks they faced and shared their burdens. It was a different kind of command, one built on respect, trust, and collaboration. In the quiet moments, Alara thought of her family, lost so suddenly. Their absence was a wound that never fully healed, but she carried their memory as motivation rather than despair. Every decision she made honored them. Every success was a testament to the resilience they had instilled in her. Then came the news from the colonies. Reports of small Xylar incursions, testing human defenses, reaching out like probing fingers to find weaknesses. Alara knew that these were preliminary strikes, attempts to gauge humanity's capacity to respond. She also knew that the true test was coming, a confrontation that would demand all her skill, courage, and leadership. She called a meeting of her senior officers. Humanity is not just a collection of colonies and fleets, she began. It is an idea, a way of thinking, a spirit that refuses to surrender. We have proven that we can fight, that we can survive, and that we can outthink the enemy. But survival is not enough. We must show the galaxy that humans are a force to be reckoned with. Thorin leaned forward, his expression serious. And how do you propose we do that, Princess? Alara's eyes gleamed with determination. We will strike at the heart of their operations. Not with brute force, but with strategy, intelligence, and courage. We will prove that humans are not merely survivors. We are leaders, thinkers, and warriors. And I will lead them, not from a palace, not from a distance, but among those who fight and live for our people. The room was silent for a moment, then filled with murmurs of agreement and renewed energy. The crew, the captains, and the officers all understood the truth in her words. They had seen the courage of humans firsthand, and now they were ready to take it further. As Alara stood once more on the bridge, staring into the vast expanse of space, she felt a sense of clarity. The path ahead was dangerous, uncertain, and full of trials. But it was also a path where humans could shine, where their ingenuity, spirit, and courage could carve a place in the galaxy. The first battle was over, but the war had just begun. And Princess Alara of Terra, young and untested, had proven that she was ready to face it, not as a child in a palace, but as a leader, a strategist, and a symbol of humanity's unyielding spirit. The victory in the asteroid belt had given humanity a precious but fragile advantage. Fleet Alpha returned to Terra for repairs, its ships worn but spirits lifted. The battle had proven that humans could fight the Xylars, but Alara knew that individual victories were not enough. To survive, humanity had to unite, not just a fleet, but entire colonies spread across the stars. She could not do this alone. The War Council gathered in the palace's command chamber. Captains, diplomats, and advisors crowded the room, their faces marked by exhaustion and determination. Maps of the human colonies flickered in holographic light, each world a point of vulnerability. Some were rich in resources, others strong in defense, but all were isolated and too easily picked off one by one. Princess, Thorin began, our fleets have proven they can fight, but they cannot protect every colony at once. The Xylars will adapt. They will strike where we are weakest. Alara nodded. Then we must become stronger in ways they cannot predict, not through firepower alone, but through unity, coordination, and human ingenuity. Each colony must feel that they are part of something larger than themselves, a human network of defense and cooperation. The challenge was immense. Many colonies had grown independent, suspicious of Terran leadership, and wary of other human settlements. Some had never faced the Xylars directly and doubted humanity's ability to resist them. Alara would need more than fleets. She would need ideas, courage, and inspiration to bring these worlds together. Within days, she boarded a diplomatic vessel, accompanied by a small team of envoys, strategists, and officers. Their first stop was Solara, a mining colony on the edge of the system. The planet's population had lived in isolation for generations, and many feared involvement in the war. When Alara arrived, she was met with skepticism. The colony governor, A stern woman named Maris challenged her immediately. "Princess, we are grateful for the Terran fleet, but our people are safe here. We do not wish to join a war that does not directly concern us." Alara looked into her eyes calmly. "I understand your concerns, but the Xylers will not stop at one colony. They move like a tide, and if we remain divided, they will sweep through every human world. Your safety depends not on isolation, but on unity. Together, we can defend our people and our homes. Alone, no colony can survive." Maris hesitated. Alara continued, her voice steady and passionate. "We have already proven that humans can outthink the enemy. We have turned weaknesses into advantages, shadows into strength. Imagine what we can accomplish if we combine our knowledge, our skills, and our courage. Imagine a network of colonies, a web of support that no Xyler fleet can destroy." The governor studied her, then slowly nodded. "Perhaps you are right, but words alone are not enough. We need to see results, and we need a plan." Alara smiled slightly. "Then let me show you. Together, we will demonstrate that humans are not helpless, that our spirit and ingenuity are our greatest weapons." Over the next few days, Alara worked tirelessly. She coordinated joint exercises between Solara's defense drones and Fleet Alpha, demonstrating new strategies, sharing intelligence, and building trust. Slowly, the colony's skepticism began to fade. People saw that her leadership was not based on title alone, but on vision, action, and respect for their contributions. Word of her efforts spread quickly to neighboring colonies. A few sent emissaries, curious and cautious, while others demanded proof that this young princess could protect them. Alara realized that inspiration alone would not unite humanity. She needed to combine her diplomatic efforts with strategic victories, small, precise actions that proved human ingenuity and bravery. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Scouts reported a Xyler fleet approaching a lightly defended resource station on the edge of human space. The station was critical, providing energy and materials to multiple colonies. If it fell, morale would plummet, and the colonies might lose faith in Terran leadership. Alara did not hesitate. She assembled a strike team of stealth ships and engineers, devising a plan that relied on clever tactics rather than overwhelming firepower. The goal was simple: protect the station, delay the Xylers, and show that humans could respond to any threat with intelligence and precision. The approach to the station was tense. Alara coordinated with the engineers, directing the deployment of drones and creating decoys to confuse the Xyler sensors. The enemy fleet advanced confidently, expecting an easy victory. Humans had once again turned the battlefield into an opportunity. As the Xylers closed in, Alara issued orders calmly and clearly. "Deploy drones to the north. Prepare the decoy units on the west. Engage only when they reach the choke points. Patience is our ally." The battle unfolded like a carefully choreographed dance. Drones disabled engines and communications. Decoys drew enemy ships into traps, and hidden turrets forced the Xylers into confusion. Alara watched every move, adjusting tactics in real time, ensuring no unnecessary risks to her fleet or the station's crew. By the end of the engagement, the Xyler fleet had been repelled without significant loss of human life. The station remained intact, and the colonies nearby celebrated a victory that was as much about intelligence and planning as it was about courage. In the aftermath, Alara addressed representatives from the surrounding colonies via a secure broadcast. Her voice was calm, yet carried the weight of experience and determination. "Today, humanity has proven that we are not weak. We have defended our home, our people, and our future. Every colony has a role in this fight. Together, we are stronger. Together, we are unstoppable. Humanity will survive because we do not surrender and we do not yield." The broadcast sparked hope and admiration. Colonies that had remained neutral now began sending support, offering ships, resources, and manpower. Alara's vision of a united humanity was slowly becoming a reality. Yet, even as the colonies rallied, Alara knew the Xylers were learning. They would adapt, strike harder, and test human defenses in new ways. To remain ahead, she had to combine diplomacy with strategy, intelligence with ingenuity. Every colony, every fleet, every decision mattered. The next weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Alara traveled from planet to planet, building alliances, sharing strategies, and training defense forces. She worked closely with engineers, scientists, and tacticians, encouraging innovative solutions. Humans began to develop clever technologies, automated defense drones, stealth modifications for older ships, and emergency protocols that allowed small colonies to fend off initial attacks until reinforcements arrived. Through it all, Alara's leadership shone. She did not demand obedience. She inspired loyalty. She did not rule from fear. She guided with vision and intelligence. Even those who had doubted her at the beginning began to see her not as a princess, but as a leader who understood their struggles and shared their burdens. One evening, as she reviewed reports on a small command ship, Rin approached quietly. "Princess, the Xylers are moving faster than we expected. Their attacks are becoming more coordinated. We may soon face a battle larger than anything we have encountered." Alara's gaze did not waver from the display. "Then we will be ready. We have more than ships. We have minds that think, hands that build, and hearts that refuse to surrender. They may be stronger in numbers, but we are stronger in spirit. That is what makes us human." The young captain nodded, respect and confidence in his eyes. "I believe you, Princess. Humanity will stand because of you." Alara allowed herself a brief smile. "No, Rin. Humanity will stand because of all of us. I am only one part of a larger whole. Every person, every colony, every mind matters. That is our strength, and that is what the Xylers cannot understand." As they traveled to the next colony, Alara reflected on the journey so far. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and immense responsibility, yet she had also discovered something profound. Humans were not defined by their size, strength, or technology. They were defined by their resilience, creativity, and unity. The more she inspired others, the stronger they became, and together they could face anything. The challenge ahead was clear. A massive Xyler fleet loomed on the edge of human space, larger and more advanced than any force they had yet encountered. It would be a test of everything humanity had learned: strategy, courage, cooperation, and ingenuity. Alara knew that the coming confrontation would demand sacrifices and brilliant planning, yet she did not falter. As the stars stretched endlessly before her, Alara felt a deep sense of purpose. Humanity had survived wars, disasters, and countless challenges before. Now, under her guidance, it was learning to rise as one, united, clever, and unbreakable. The young princess, once unsure and overwhelmed, had become a symbol of hope. Her vision of a united humanity, strong in mind and spirit, was taking shape. The colonies were beginning to trust one another, fleets were coordinating defenses, and the people believed that they could withstand the Xyler onslaught. Alara knew that the true test was coming, but she was ready. Not because she was fearless, but because she understood what it meant to lead, not as a ruler of titles, but as a commander of hearts and minds. Humanity had a chance to survive, to thrive, and to prove to the galaxy that they were a force unlike any other. And Princess Alara of Terra, young and untested at the start, had grown into the leader they needed. She was no longer just a princess. She was a strategist, a diplomat, and a symbol of the indomitable human spirit. As the fleet approached the next colony, she prepared her mind and her people for the battles ahead. The Xylers were coming, and humanity would meet them not with fear, but with courage, intelligence, and the power of unity. The galaxy had grown quiet in the moments before the storm. Humanity's colonies were more united than ever, fleets coordinated across light years, and civilians prepared defenses that were both clever and resourceful. Yet even in this moment of relative calm, Princess Alara felt the weight of the coming battle pressing on her. The Xylar fleet, larger and more advanced than anything they had faced, was approaching fast. Every decision, every action would shape the fate of millions. Alara stood on the bridge of the flagship, her eyes scanning the holographic projections of the enemy's advance. The ships were sleek, angular, and cold, moving with a precision that spoke of intelligence and discipline. The Xylars had studied humanity, adapting to their previous tactics, and Alara knew that they would not make mistakes this time. The margin for error was smaller than ever. Thorin approached, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "Princess, the fleets are ready. Every colony has sent what they could. You have done what no one else could, but remember, your strength is in the humans around you as much as in yourself." Alara nodded, absorbing the reassurance but feeling no relief. "I know, General. Every ship, every soldier, every engineer has a role. We must be faster, smarter, and more unpredictable than they expect. That is the only way to survive." The plan was daring. Humanity's fleets would converge on the Xylar forces, not in direct confrontation, but through disruption and misdirection. Alara had coordinated with engineers across multiple colonies to create automated drones, decoys, and communication scramblers that could temporarily confuse even the most advanced Xylar systems. At the same time, stealth units would infiltrate the Xylar formation to disable their command ships and cut coordination. "Princess," Rin said, coming up beside her, "the fleets are in position. We're ready when you give the order." Alara took a deep breath. "Then we begin." The fleets moved into the prearranged positions, slipping through asteroid fields, planetary rings, and shadowed regions of space. Every movement was precise, every signal carefully coordinated. The humans had learned to adapt, to think like their enemy while still remaining true to their own ingenuity. It was a strategy born not from raw strength, but from understanding the mind of an opponent and exploiting the predictable in unexpected ways. As the first Xylar vessels appeared on the horizon, the human fleets executed the first phase of the plan. Drones darted through space like invisible fireflies, disabling sensor arrays and weapon systems on several enemy ships. Decoy units emitted false energy signatures, drawing larger Xylar forces into narrow corridors where their numbers became a disadvantage. Alara directed her stealth team personally, coordinating their infiltration of the Xylar command ships. The humans moved silently, using advanced cloaking systems and knowledge of Xylar protocols to slip past defenses. Once inside the enemy network, they deployed programs that disrupted communication and navigation, turning the once perfect Xylar fleet into chaos. From the bridge, Alara watched with a mixture of tension and pride as the Xylar ships struggled to coordinate. They fired at empty space, collided with each other in confusion, and became vulnerable to calculated human strikes. Every ship, every maneuver, every carefully timed distraction played a part in turning the tide. Yet even with these successes, the battle was far from won. The Xylars adapted quickly, rerouting commands and attempting to isolate the stealth units. Alara's mind raced as she countered every move, issuing orders in rapid succession. Deploy the northern drones to flank their central command. Redirect the southern decoys to simulate a retreat. Keep the stealth units hidden until the last moment. The humans moved like a single organism, coordinated and precise. Even the youngest officers and crews acted with skill and determination, inspired by Alara's leadership and the unity she had built across the colonies. Every person had a role, every action mattered, and the combination of courage, intelligence, and ingenuity became a force the Xylars had not anticipated. At the critical moment, the stealth units struck. Human engineers had discovered a weakness in the Xylar command network, a single point where their AI systems communicated. Disabling it would not destroy the fleet, but it would disrupt coordination, create confusion, and force the enemy to act without direction. Alara gave the order and the strike units moved into position. The effect was immediate. Xylar ships halted mid-maneuver, fired erratically, and began drifting as automated systems failed. Humanity's fleet pressed the advantage, targeting disabled ships and securing key positions. The battle shifted from defense to decisive action. Even as the humans gained the upper hand, Alara remained focused. "Do not underestimate them," she warned her officers. "They are adaptable. Keep your minds sharp and do not waste a single move." Hours passed in a tense flurry of activity. Each success required careful attention. Each victory demanded more ingenuity. Alara coordinated repairs, redeployed forces, and personally guided strike teams through the chaos. Her leadership inspired confidence and courage, and her presence reminded every human involved that they were not alone, that their efforts were part of a larger, unified purpose. Finally, the Xylar fleet, disoriented and unable to coordinate, began to retreat. Humanity had not destroyed them entirely, but they had delivered a blow that would force the enemy to reconsider any immediate assaults. For the first time, humans were no longer prey. They were opponents capable of shaping the battlefield and dictating terms of engagement. As the fleets regrouped, Alara allowed herself a moment of reflection. The cost had been significant in terms of resources and fatigue, but no lives had been wasted unnecessarily. Humanity had proven that it could fight not only with courage, but with intelligence, coordination, and creativity. Thorin approached, his expression a mix of pride and relief. "Princess, you have done what few could imagine. The colonies will never doubt your leadership again. Humanity has earned its place in the galaxy." Alara looked out at the stars, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. "It is not me alone," she replied. "It is every human who fought, who built, who believed. This victory belongs to all of us." The news of the battle spread quickly. Colonies once hesitant to join the Terran cause now pledged full support. Ships, resources, and personnel arrived from worlds that had previously remained neutral. Humanity was no longer fragmented. It was a network of united minds, hearts, and skills. In the weeks that followed, Alara oversaw reconstruction, training, and strategic planning. She encouraged innovation, supported young leaders, and ensured that every colony, no matter how small, had a voice in decisions. The human spirit, once underestimated by the Xylars, had become a force that could not be ignored. Yet Alara knew that the war was not over. The Xylars would adapt, regroup, and return with new strategies. The galaxy was vast, and threats would always arise. But humanity had discovered its true strength, not just in ships or weapons, but in creativity, unity, and resilience. One evening, standing on the balcony of the flagship as it orbited Terra, Alara reflected on the journey. She had begun as a young princess, uncertain and overwhelmed, suddenly thrust into a war she had never imagined. She had faced fear, responsibility, and doubt. She had learned the value of strategy, the importance of diplomacy, and the power of human ingenuity. Now she understood what it meant to lead. Leadership was not about titles or inherited authority. It was about vision, courage, and the ability to inspire others to rise above challenges. It was about seeing the potential in people and giving them the tools and confidence to succeed. Humanity had risen under her guidance, and she had risen with it. Rin approached quietly, standing beside her as they looked out at the stars. "Princess, the Xylars will return someday," he said, "but I believe humanity will be ready." Alara nodded. "Yes, they will be ready because they are humans, clever, determined, and unbreakable, and we will face them together, not as individuals but as one people." The stars seemed brighter in that moment, distant yet full of possibility. Alara felt a sense of purpose and clarity she had never known before. Humanity had survived against the odds, not because of might alone, but because of ingenuity, courage, and unity. As the fleets continued to patrol and the colonies strengthened, Alara allowed herself a small, private smile. She had been crowned in blood, not in the sense of destruction, but in the sense of responsibility, sacrifice, and leadership forged in the fires of trial. The title of Princess of War was not a symbol of fear or power over others. It was a symbol of resilience, intelligence, and hope. Alara knew the Xylers would return, but she also knew that humanity was no longer the same species they had been before the first battle. They had learned to act as one, to think as one, and to endure as one. And under her guidance, they would continue to grow stronger. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and uncertainties. But Princess Alara of Terra, once a young and inexperienced leader, had become a symbol of human spirit, a strategist, a unifier, and a protector. Humanity would survive, thrive, and shine, because they had a leader who believed not in fear, but in the boundless potential of her people. And as the stars stretched endlessly before her, Alara felt a quiet certainty. Humanity would not only endure, it would triumph, for their greatest weapon was not technology, not firepower, but the indomitable human heart. She was crowned in blood, the human princess of war,